following program is sponsored. The opinions and statements made by the hosts and guests do not necessarily reflect the views of News Talk 600 and 100.3 WBOB or its parent company, the Chesapeake Portsmouth Broadcasting Corporation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say afternoon. This is Bob Wolf and
Wes Bunce.
And we're here to not entertain you, but perhaps to give you some facts to help you digest some information. I want to warn you, we're going to go where no man goes or no man has gone before us. And I am going to say some dirty words during the program today, so I want you to not, have me taken off the air. I'm going to use some dirty words, but I'll tell you what they are just before I say them so you can block your ears if you wish. We're going to cover a few things this morning. One of them, or this afternoon, one of the things that we're going to cover is a little bit about what I had to say last week about Jeb Bush. I left off there. Jeb Bush last week giving the award to Hillary Clinton. It's called the Liberty Medal. And she's receiving this medal on the eve of the Benghazi anniversary. This according to Breitbart News. So I wanted you to know that, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about Hillary during the course of this show, probably in the second sequence of the show. And so I wanted you to keep that in mind, that Jeb Bush is giving her that Liberty Medal Award. We're going to discuss some other things. I have a guest coming on with us right away, first thing during this first sequence of the program. And I'm going to let him talk to you and tell you by way of phone what he is involved with on September 11th, what he's going to be doing. We have here at the studio a program going on, but I'm going to let him tell you about it. I have mentioned it in previous weeks, and I think he may be. Oh, I didn't get a phone number. Hold on a second. Oh, the phones are down. Oh, right. Well, we have a problem. We're gonna have to pinch hit, right?
Bob, you and Wes are great.
What's that? Yeah, I know. We're terrific here.
You can do it.
We just
great
don't
information.
We just don't have telephones that work today. Something has gone down on us, and we didn't know that. In fact,
it's a non-live guest, in other words, in the studio. Like we had the guest last week. This week, Captain Schoaf is not going to be with us. He was going to be calling in to fill us in on this tribute that you're talking about, 9/11, the Benghazi event. And actually, it's probably a good idea we give a little background history to how this actually started for some of our new listeners. And you were telling me this week that we crossed a record threshold, over 1,000 new people hitting our website on We the People, 1787.com.
Yeah, for last month. Yeah, just last month.
So for those who are new, it was just over a year ago we had one of our first guests who was retired Rear Admiral Chuck Kubik, who was involved with the whole Libyan Middle Eastern crisis. He was in place. The day 9/11 happened, he was in the capital in Tripoli, and his friend, the ambassador, Chris Stevens, was on a mission, somewhat clandestine, if I might say. It wasn't a public event. He was on his way to negotiate a deal at the consulate. And as you know, the news reported that there was initially a demonstration that created a firefight. That firefight led to a 13-hour engagement, which has now become published work of Chris Paranti and others who actually showed up to defend the consulate and the embassy there against the quote-unquote demonstration against a videotape. Well, that story, based on Admiral Kubik's personal presence and testimony, never happened. There was a planned terrorist event, which has now become recognized publicly by many as the sole reason for this conflagration. at the consulate that led to 4 dead Americans, 3 Navy SEALs and the ambassador himself. So in honor of that sacrifice to try and protect our interests, which is American, these men and women who have continued the story to bring out the facts have become the Benghazi Commission, and they will be arriving in Jacksonville on the 11th to have a presentation here in our studio at the Salem Center on Bonneville Road, and you, the public, are invited. Now, unfortunately, we can't have you all here. It is a first-come, first-served basis. There is no charge for admission, but we only have a 400-seat auditorium. Excuse me for that mess up. And that night, you will hear from those Admiral Kubik, Admiral Lyons, Claire Lopez, and the MC himself, Captain Ryman Schoaf, who was to be our guest today. And that show, that evening, will answer many questions for a lot of people. And that is just one aspect of this movement to bring the story forward. The other aspect you've heard from this studio is the Benghazi Select Committee of the United States Congress and the House of Representatives, headed by none other than Trey Gowdy. Now, at our website, if you would like to see what started this whole motion and this movement, you can go to our website and look for that National Press Club Conference.
On the front page right on the front page of the site, in about the middle somewhere.
Yeah, we tell it right there. We actually replay the actual interview with those 4 powerful individuals, and they are explicit in that there is a cover-up, that there is a liability, and the purpose, of course, of the Congressional Committee is to find out who is responsible, to what extent. And I think what we're going to find out, it's not the story that the media and the press corps is trying to have us believe, but is more insidious than even that. So, as this week's news broke about the possible discovery of that Malaysian Airlines aircraft that found 239 people disappear, there never seems to be an end to the discovery of what really happens in these international incidents. What do you think, Bob?
Well, I'm totally baffled, as many people are, about where the airplane really went to, but why they find, what they think are perhaps wings that belong to that plane, or a wing that belonged to that plane. They find it, but they don't find a fuselage or seats or a burned-out fire or anything like that. You're like, give me a break.
Of course, it has been a year, and there won't be much surviving in terms of human.
Well, I didn't think they would be surviving, but I mean, there's got to be some other wreckage.
But certainly, of course,
yeah.
I think that the huge distance they're talking about, 1,000 miles or more, certainly can be taken by the currents and moved. But to discover it just reopens the whole question. We have unanswered stories. Well, there are enough people concerned about this story about what happened in Benghazi that this story is not going to die until there's some kind of resolution. As a matter of fact, officially on October, if I'm not wrong, I think it's the 22nd, the committee actually is bringing Hillary Clinton to testify that day on Benghazi specifically and her involvement. Now, more emails this week were released. As a matter of fact, I think it was even Friday that stated that she had redacted, she had struck out of the evidence, communications going between the State Department and who was it? Was it Department of Defense? Who was it?
I think it was the Department of Defense, and also, we know the State Department was involved, but I know that there were emails uncovered or evidence of emails uncovered that clearly would state that she did have classified information on her computer, despite the fact that she said, no, there wasn't.
Well, we've got he said, she said, going on, finger pointing, and what frustrates the public is to see it die in the sea of time. In other words, other issues are brought forward, and we're in the instant news generation that everybody has access to. And so in the middle of that, we've got another major news story that involves Hillary Clinton, and that is Planned Parenthood. You know, we talked about it last week. We talked about my revealing that the foundations were a key funding source of this crisis. Well, guess what? There's even more news this week on Hillary Clinton's relationship with the organization known as Planned Parenthood Federation, even international. And, of course, this foundation we talked about last week was the Clinton Foundation, tied in with the Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all driving large sums of money toward promoting family planning, also known in common vernacular as abortion. So the last news item of the day coming up next week, as you know, the House of Representatives is in recess now. Well, the Senate is still there in Washington. One of the major funding bills they've got to answer is this highway bill. And attached to the highway bill, guess what? Planned Parenthood funding. So what we're going to do is we're going to see the U.S. Senate in full color actually give us the answer. Are we going to start a real discussion of funding $500 million toward abortion? Now, Marco Rubio, one of the presidential candidates, has come out publicly and stated, I'm going to lead that fight. We're not going to be a part of this suicidal pact for our generations to come. And I think that Hillary Clinton needs to be called to task in her role as not only a State Department official, but she's also a leader of her party, and they set the platform forward. And
well, here's the thing: if you and I had done the same thing, Wes, you or I, or anyone else, a regular citizen working for the State Department, had done the same thing, had a private email server, and the same thing occurred where I decided myself whether emails belong to the State Department or not, and just arbitrarily deleted things. The FBI would be down there at our house. They would take the computers. They'd take everything away from us, and maybe even the desk it was sitting on. But they would come in and they would take all this stuff, maybe even put us in cuffs until they found out what the truth of things were. But no, not in this case. Hillary's being treated like she is above other people. And perhaps that is exactly the way that she looks at herself. We're going to go on a break here in another minute or two, or actually about 30 seconds. Before that, I'm going to tell you about a person who wanted to make sure that the black society didn't live. Hang in there. It's Bob.
That's exciting.
Yeah. You can call in too at 222-8255.
Oh, no, can't remember. We don't have phones today.
Oh, that's right. We don't have phones. Sorry about that. But you're listening to Bob and Wes on AM 600, 100.3. The Answer.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
Okay, well, Forrest is still out, but it's Bob Wolf and it's Wesley Bunce. We're hoping to make you very happy or unhappy. And if we make you unhappy enough, we hoped that you would call. But our phone lines are down today, so not going to be able to do that. However, what you can do, you can let us know about how you feel about certain things just simply by emailing us. And you can do that at Freedom Speaks. That's Freedom Speaks with an S on it at gmail.com. So we would encourage you to do that. But also, because of the Benghazi tribute coming up, you can go on our website. You'll find right on the homepage on the right-hand side a button to push. You'll see the pictures of Doherty and Woods and Smith and Chris Stevens right there on the homepage. You're going to see that, a button right there. Click it. It'll take you to everything you need to know about how you can also get to the free to our free program, Tribute, Benghazi Tribute. And that is on September 11th, right here at our studios. Wes,
the Salem Center on Bonneville Road, right there close to the intersection of JTB, Phillips Highway, US 1. And how you register is you go to, obviously, if you can't write this down, you're driving in your car, you can go to your website at wethepeople1787.com, and you will see the link. They are asking everyone to register online with an organization called Eventbrite.
Well, what you'll see is on the home page, you'll see the button I mentioned a minute ago, and then once you click that button, you will see the additional button where you can go to register with Eventbrite.
Right. I mean, we're closing in. We're about a month away, and these significant personalities with credibility, high credibility, will bring facts and figures to us about what actually did take place, what can we do now. And obviously, they're going to be pressing us to contact our representatives who are going to have a say about this. Obviously, through the committees, we've got a tremendous window coming up this fall, 1 year before a presidential election. And a key figure in the presidential swing is Hillary Clinton, and she is under investigation. I don't know. Do you think she can survive it?
I personally don't think that she will, but there are people who are saying that, they'll do whatever they have to do because the end justifies the means. You remember that old saying.
So tell us who this mystery person was who brought about the annihilation of a race.
Well, didn't actually bring out the annihilation of it, but that is what the psychology of the matter was. And I want to bring this in. Do we have time during this segment, or are we going to wait till the next segment to do this?
Well, I was just thinking we'd at least mention her name. That might carry somebody through and say, wow, who is this person? I've not heard of her. They didn't have it in my high school history class.
No, I didn't have it in mine either, but not that I can remember. But I will say this. The name, I'll give you in a moment, keep you guessing. Hopefully you can figure this out with a couple of other things that I say. But Miss Clinton was given an award in 2009 by this organization and the founder of the organization. And who I'm talking about is the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger.
Back in, 1916, somewhere around there?
1916, I think it was. I think that's correct, is when she founded the organization. And, she had some very upsetting beliefs that this is the founder of Planned Parenthood who believed that Planned Parenthood hides behind the most merciful thing. I said the wrong thing. The most merciful thing that a large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it.
Did I hear you right?
I did say that. I told you I'd say some dirty words during the program. The word was kill.
Is that like if you have a fetus or an unborn baby?
No, this was live.
Oh, this was
live child. But let me read you this. The wickedness of creating large families. Here, Sanger argues, this is a book that she had, Women and the New Race. Okay, get that, the new race. Here, Sanger argues that because the conditions of large families tend to involve poverty and illness, it is better for everyone involved if a child's life is snuffed out before he or she has a chance to pose difficulties to the family. We should apply a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to that grade of population whose progeny is tainted, or those inheritance is such that objectionable traits may be transmitted to the offspring. What does this sound like to you folks? I wish the phones worked today because I would really like to have somebody get aggravated enough to call me up and tell me this isn't so, that this is a lie, that this is not the truth, just the same as the videos that have been released showing what happened with Planned Parenthood people who talked about how much they wanted to get for baby parts. Look, you can make this sound as smooth as you want. You can call it baby tissue. You can call it whatever you want, but it's baby parts. This is ghoulish, folks. This is just unconscionable.
You know, it's amazing as you bring that story up. I'm thinking about a big news headline. One of the other presidential candidates was Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas, and he made a statement about this nuclear arms treaty. And he said that you could almost see the ovens or feel the ovens opening in a statement about the possibility of a nuclear holocaust caused because of the nuclear deal. And boy, did he get the wrath of Khan coming against him just because he said something about a reminder there was a Holocaust. There were ovens. There were pits of human bodies. And it caused such a furor that, of course, what happened? We ended up with a nation called Israel in great empathy for the dastardly deeds of a government that said this race shouldn't exist, or this ethnic group, if I might say that.
Yes. Folks, we're going to be right back in a minute. We've got a break to go on. We got to kind of try and make a couple of bucks with our advertisers here. Listen, I don't want you to turn the dial. I want you to come back. We're going to insult you as much as possible before it's over. Bob Wolf and Wesley Bunce, and we're here at AM 600, 100.3 The Answer.
And we are praying for the power to come back on the telephone line so we can enjoy hearing from you.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
Yes, Bob Wolf and Wesley Bunce. To continue where I left off, we were discussing Margaret Sanger. We were discussing what her beliefs were in founding Planned Parenthood. And in a moment, I want to talk a little bit about the biggest cheerleader that she had. Plan for Peace. This is another one of her great ideas. It came on page 107 and 108 in an April book back in 1932 that she authored from Birth Control Review. Article 1, the purpose of the American Baby Code shall be to provide for a better distribution of babies. Get this, what is this, trying to level the playing field on babies? And to protect society against the propagation and increase of the unfit.
That's eugenics.
Yes.
That's a big fancy college word. I mean, selective screening of who's acceptable to live and who is to die. As a matter of fact, that was a discussion in the Affordable Care Act, was what we now call the death panels, was at a certain age you are no longer qualified to receive medical care.
Right. You're just not a viable citizen anymore.
And so now it's how are we going to eliminate you? So there you got. There
well,
you have it.
in the plain and facts of this is eugenics. And you can look this up on Google if you wish, what eugenics is. But this is essentially the same thing that the Nazis wanted in World War II. They wanted a super race, a better race of people. And what you do is you, in order to get that, they believed that what they would do is keep out those that they thought were unfit. And it was like selective breeding, just what Wes was just saying. Article 4 in her book, No Woman shall have the legal right to bear a child, and no man shall have the right to become a father without a permit.
From the government.
Oh, yeah. What else? Article 6, no permit for parenthood shall be valid for more than one birth. What does that sound like to you, Wes?
I think I've heard the China policy.
I think so.
One child.
One child, or was it two? I can't remember now.
It's the one-child policy.
Okay, they got a one child. So they're told look, if you think it's because there are too many people over there and that they bred wild, hey, maybe they did, but they're being told what they can do. So why do people want to move to this country? Why do they want to get it? Because we don't have that kind of a law yet over here. It's amazing. Now, the biggest cheerleader that Margaret Sanger had was
or ever has had
and still has is Hillary Clinton. Remember, I said that she accepted the Margaret Sanger Award. This was an article published here March 27th of 2009 by Martin Bareilles, and I have the information backing that up.
Well, she's complied with Margaret Sanger's idea of one child. They just had one, right, Chelsea?
Right. So maybe they stuck to that one child policy.
Okay.
Secretary of State Hillary, this is before she received the award, is set to receive the highest award given by Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Oh my goodness, the highest award. It's the Margaret Sanger Award, named for organization's founder and noted eugenicist. The award will be presented at a gala event in Houston. Oh my goodness, we're all going to be dancing in the streets. Houston, Texas. This evening, co-host of the event will be the American Ferreria. I'm not sure how you can pronounce that, but the lead on the Ugly Betty television show, which I've never seen, and PPFA,
Planned Parent Federation of America.
Right. Mm-hmm. President Cecil Richards.
Who is remember from last week? She's the daughter of the former governor, Ann Richards of Texas.
Of course, Ann's gone now. She's long gone, but is dead. I mean, passed away. So anyway, this article goes on that I took this from Marjorie Danfelser, president of Susan B. Anthony List, a profile organization, spoke about Secretary Clinton and her acceptance of the Sanger Award, and said Danfelser, if Secretary Clinton were fully aware of the eugenist past of Margaret Sanger, I cannot believe that she would be accepting an award in her name. It is, in fact, shocking that the award still bears Sanger's name. Sanger broadly supported the eugenics movement, advocating for a superior race that was free of poor, immigrant, and minority citizens. She even spoke at a rally of the Ku Klux Klan. Despite this evidence, Planned Parenthood, the nation's leading abortion provider, has done little to distance itself from Sanger's legacy. Last year's controversy involving a Planned Parenthood employee accepting donations earmarked specifically for the abortion of African American children draws attention to an important reality for the nation's largest abortion provider. Planned Parenthood Federation of America needs to be very careful to steer clear of any appearance of adhering to Sanger's pro-eugenics philosophy. Oh, wait, they started the organization based on this, right? So anyway, they go on to say, and this ought to begin by remaining their highest award. Some quotes of Margaret Sanger illustrate her attitudes toward race and eugenics. We do not want, I think this is a quote because it's marked in quotes, pardon me. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea. If it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members, Sanger's letter to Clarence J. Gamble in 1939, December of 1939. This is not me saying this. This is what I'm reading based on what Sanger has either written or has put out for the public to know. Margaret Sanger referred to immigrants as Catholics, and Catholics as reckless breeders, writing in her book, Pivot of Civilization. They're an increasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all. It was on page 187. The most merciful thing that a large family does, and I'll repeat this again because I thought it was worth repeating, And she says this: the most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Notice she said infant here. It's not fetus or piece of tissue. Margaret Sanger wrote that in her 1920 book, Women and the New Race. Last year, an Idaho Planned Parenthood, American Eugenics Society. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry about that. I've got so much paper on my desk now, I think that they're going to recycle me. Employee was disciplined for accepting a donation earmarked for the abortion of African Americans. According to a transcript of the call, Autumn Kersey, Vice President of Development and Marketing for Planned Parenthood of Idaho, took a call from an actor saying he wanted his money to be used to eliminate unborn black babies because the less black kids out there, the better. Kersey responded with this word twice. Understandable. Understandable. Excuse my hesitation. This is the first time I've had a donor call and make this kind of request, so I'm excited, and I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. Help me out here, Wes.
Well, the story gets worse, and if I know we're targeting Hillary Clinton since she's a public supporter of the organization, but can we just drag in the President of the United States, who is quoted multiple times? He showed up at the annual Planned Parenthood gala event in Washington and said, "God bless you, Planned Parenthood, and God bless America." Here is the man who would be a victim of this eugenics idea, promoting the idea. So I guess there are some blacks better than other blacks. Is that what it is?
Well,
that's Animal Farm. There are some
I don't know now.
members on the farm.
Black lives matter, and I agree. Black lives do matter. But I'm going to say something that's highly controversial. Another bad word, folks. All lives do matter, and I'm not going to back up on that. If you can get on the phone, well, you can't today, but save it for next week. You want to cuss me out, let me know how you feel. All lives matter to me. Those that are in the womb, those that are out of the womb, and grown-ups, black, brown, white, yellow, it makes no difference. All lives matter.
It's enshrined in our American culture. All men are endowed by their Creator with these certain unalienable rights. In other words, you can't take them away, and that is life and liberty and this pursuit of happiness that made America the shining light on the hill that Reagan referred to often. Another quote that's related to this Planned Parenthood story that I think needs to be talked about, and you're going to get there in a couple minutes, I understand, on who would be willing to pay for this industry. And that is Dannenfelser, again, the president of the Susan B. Anthony list, said this: Planned Parenthood has raked in more than $300 million in profits over the last 4 years. Not just the paying for the industry, but making money. What do you think God thinks about that?
Well, I know what the Bible has to say, and I know what God would probably think. Well, I can't say I know what God would think, but I do know what I think based on what I believe that is Christian beliefs. I understand, too, that some of the places that are Planned Parenthood offices make over $100,000 a month on these baby parts by selling the parts. Tissue, you can call it tissue. You can call it whatever you want. The smoother the word, the easier it goes down. But folks, this is the truth. The baby parts. It's about making money here. So,
man, we're going to get into that after this break, huh? We're going to be more specific. We're going to help you understand this is a serious attack on our culture.
It is truly, and I will get into more depth of the details that you probably would be astounded to know about. Stick with us. Don't turn the dial. This is Bob Wolf and Wesley Bunce. We're on AM 600, 100.3 The Answer, and this is We the People 1787.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
Okay, it's Bob Wolf. You know, God works in mysterious ways. He kept that phone off today so that we wouldn't be interrupted and we could go into this information that we're giving you. I do want to say this. Wes is going to cover a little bit on the tribute in a moment. We only have a few minutes left. But what I want to do is I want to let you know that we, Wes and I, are going to have a table at the Benghazi tribute. You'll get a chance to meet us if you wish. And also, we're going to be asking if you want to give us your name and maybe contact information. We want to offer a solution to all this. So that is what that's about, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Next, I just want to rattle this off real quick. America needs a code for the babies. You remember me talking about the code a minute ago, and whether man and woman could be licensed to have children, and one child to two children. She says, give diagenic groups, people with bad genes in our population, their choice of segregation or compulsory sterilization. And then she also says, and I'm going to cut it short, but she says, birth control must lead ultimately to a cleaner race. If there was ever a person that was racist, this would be that person. Let me give you an idea of who is contributing or has contributed in the past to Planned Parenthood.
Now, you're talking on the private side now, right? Because last week we talked about the $500 million that you and I as taxpayers are paying in. On top of that, let's go see the private side.
And they have, as I understand, a budget of about $1.5 billion budget per year. But, you know, when you pick up your coffee at that famous little coffee place you stop at called Starbucks, just remember, they're in favor of abortion. Look, I'm not going to argue with you. If you are in favor of abortion, you can be in favor of abortion. I think that it's murder. It's my opinion. And I'm not planning to argue it with you, but that's what I believe. You're entitled to believe what you want to believe. Here are some organizations that have contributed, some heavily, as donors to the Planned Parenthood. How about some of these are going to astound you? How about and I'm not picking them out first for any particular reason. They're just on my list this way. How about Bob Evans Restaurants? How about Ameriprise Financial? How about the Dallas Cowboys? How about American Cancer Society? Oh, this will blow you away. The Campfire Girls. Or Dr. Phil Foundation. Does that surprise you? Not to me, but how about Girls Incorporated? I looked that up on the internet to find out what that's about, and you can do the same thing if you wish. Or this one will really blow you away. The Girl Scouts. You know, they stand out in front of Publix and they sell you their high-priced cookies, and you dig money out of your pocket, you give it to them, and then they give it to Planned Parenthood. I wonder if people even understand what the words Planned Parenthood really does mean. They probably think you go there to get some sort of advice on how you can raise your family and how much it's going to cost to have a baby and how much it's going to cost to raise the child and clothe them and put them in school and so on and so forth. But hey, folks, let's get down to realistics about it. It's exposed. We know now what it is. At least I do. The Kiwanis clubs. Human Rights Watch. That's almost a laugh. Human Rights Watch. The March of Dimes. Here they are. March of Dimes got the canisters out on
Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
How about they're out there on the streets, on the street corners, and the fire department, fire people are collecting money in their boots so that they can get that money and give it to another foundation like this one.
Oh, Forrest.
Oh, I got a caller. Looks like the phones are back on. Okay, go ahead, Forrest.
Oh, he's put his hand up. No.
Right. Okay. Hold on. All right. While I'm waiting for that, I'll keep going. We got the, I already said the Girl Scouts. We got the Kiwanis Club. We got the Human Rights Watch. We got the March of Dimes. We got the Rotary Clubs, if I didn't say that one. How about the AIDS Foundation, Red Cross, AARP, American Cancer Society, Amnesty International, Audubon Society. Give me a break. The Audubon Society? Boys and Girls Clubs. The Boys and Girls Clubs are giving money to this. I can't believe it. How about, well, let's see, Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, the Lions Clubs, March of Dimes, Muscular Dystrophy Association, that's Jerry's kids again, Ronald McDonald House Charities.
Oh, that one gets me really to my heart, because when our son had a unfortunate crisis where his daughter had to be operated on down at Miami General Hospital, my son, who was in the Air Force at the time, and his wife, they were welcomed to the Ronald McDonald Center where he could stay. Mm. Well, that was an effort to save life. Here's Ronald McDonald taking life.
Yeah.
Where's that conflict? I mean, where's the consistency?
I'm never going to want a Happy Meal again.
Yeah.
This does not make me happy at all. How about this organization? Now, Save the Children organization.
Save the Children. Wait a minute. Did you say that?
That's what I just said. Save the Children.
So Planned Parenthood is going to get money from Save the Children so they can get rid of children.
That's about
so
the
they
size
can't become children.
Yeah.
That organization will die then if they're successful.
I'm even suggesting, whether they have said it or not, you can take what I've said today is from about the Margaret Sanger stuff and what her beliefs were that started the Planned Parenthood. Supposing that some of those beliefs are still inbred in this organization, would you give your money for that? How about this one? This will blow your mind. The YMCA and the YWCA.
Well, what does the C in both of those organizations stand for? Christian?
I think
so. These Christian organizations are paying for family planning like this.
Well, this is family planning to the 10th degree black belt.
Yep.
Sierra Club. There is the Parkinson Disease Foundation. How about Paralyzed Veterans of America? Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
If we've got your blood pressure up at this moment, I'm going to give you a way to resolve it. Congress is voting in the Senate next week on funding for Planned Parenthood, and you have 2 senators, and you can call them, storm the lines, and let the Christians be heard. Area code 202-224-5274 is Bill Nelson, and 202-224-3041 is Marco Rubio. He is leading a fight to defund Planned Parenthood in the highway transportation bill that must be passed. So you can take an active role, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Let your voice be heard.
Yes. Going on.
We got 1 minute.
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney.
Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, my gosh.
Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of America. Bayer Aspirin Company, eBay, PayPal, Midas Muffler. It goes on.
Hey, thank you, Jeb, for endorsing Hillary. Thank you, Jeb. That was nice of you. Give her the Liberty Medal.
Go to our website, wethepeople1787.com. Wethepeople1787.com. Come back and visit us next week. We are anxious to have you.
We'll have the phone lines on.
I'm hoping to have the phone lines ready so I can have you call me up and tell me what's on your mind.
And congratulations, Donna Shalala, for your appointment to the Clinton Foundation, where you can help them as the Health and Human Services former secretary. Help them allocate those funds at the Clinton Foundation.
Absolutely. We're out of here. Bye-bye, folks.